And that's me. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Hawaii Board of Nursing meeting for today, July 2nd, 2026. We're going to start with an informational video about participating in virtual board meetings.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras.
Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
All right. We are here. Welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start with a roll call of board members. As a reminder to board members who are attending virtually, please indicate whether you are alone in whatever location you're at. I'm Carrie Oliveira. I'm the chair. I'm here. Bradley Kuo.
Right here.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Arizani.
Present and alone.
Sherry Shields Hansen.
Present and alone.
Rebecca Moore.
Present and alone.
That makes 5. We do have a quorum. We can proceed. All right. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes from, it's actually June. The agenda says that we're approving May 7th also. We've already done that. If you looked at the minutes for today, it's on there. So we don't need to be worried about the May minutes, but we will do June. I did provide, there was a revised version of the executive session minutes that were circulated. You guys all got that? Okay, so given that recirculated set of executive session minutes and the open session, does anybody have any comments or revisions? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the minute, approve the minutes as circulated?
So moved.
That's a motion from Bradley. Is there a second?
I second.
Very enthusiastic seconds today. I'll take Rebecca's. Thank you so much. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries. All right. I am at this time also going to, by the way, new Deputy Attorney General to the board. Yay, Leon McBride. And we have supporting DA today, Jordan. I don't remember your last name. Ching. Hi, Jordan. Thank you for being here. Our new Deputy Attorney General has asked that I take a motion if I'm going to defer agenda items, and there are 2 I'd like to defer, and I don't need 2/3 for that, correct? Correct. Magical. So I'm going to defer 2 agenda items right at the outset. Item number 6A. So under new business, board discussion and potential action regarding the formulation of permitted interaction group. The language in this agenda item does not conform to Chapter 92 Sunshine Rules, so we are not going to discuss that today. So I'm going to make a motion to defer that agenda item to a future agenda. Is there a second?
This is Bradley. I'll second.
Thank you for the second, Bradley. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries. The other, yes, Darren, you are right on time. The other item I would like to defer is the item number 8, chapter 91, adjudicatory matters, because the adjudicatory matter was not actually included in our board packet and you didn't have the opportunity to review it. So we're not going to discuss that today. So I'd like to make a motion to defer agenda item number 8. Is there a second?
This is Bradley second.
Thank you, Bradley, for the second. Does any
I'll
board
second
member?
Terrence.
I'll take turns in second, just for variety.
Yes.
Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries. That agenda item is deferred. The other thing that I would like to do is amend agenda item number 6C, which is pertaining to the Education Committee report. Just as a contextual reminder, so a couple of things pursuant to chapter 92, the Sunshine Law, 7D, we need 2/3 of the allotted board members to amend an agenda item, which we now have because Darren has walked into the room. A year ago, in May of 2025, the board revised its delegation authority to the Education Committee to make decisions on its behalf. Those decisions then are subsequently ratified by the board. So the language in this agenda item doesn't reflect that. So I'd like to amend the language in the agenda item to read to review. So agenda item 6C will be to review and ratify the Education Committee reports from May 7th and June 4th. Any discussion, questions from the board on that?
No questions.
If not, is there a second on that motion?
Sure, Darren, second.
Darren seconds. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it. Is a 2/3. That motion passes. Okay. Woohoo! Fun times. We're gonna go back now to agenda item number 3, which is the chair's report. The only thing that is a reminder that the 2 executive officers and myself are, I want to say you guys are registered for the meeting. I assume you guys are registered for the meeting. We're all registered to attend the annual meeting, the National Council of State Boards of Nursing in August. You guys have been hearing about this repeatedly over the course of the last couple of months that this meeting is coming up and that we'll be attending and voting on your behalf. The one thing I did want to mention that's new is that board members can watch the live stream of the meeting. It is terrible because it's at 9 a.m. Central. So it's gonna be 4 o'clock in the morning, but in about 2 weeks before the meeting, so it's on August 19th through the 21st. The NCSBN will send emails to all members of all state boards of nursing with information about how to watch the live stream if you are interested in doing that. So I just wanted to give you a heads up to watch your emails for correspondence from NCSBN on the matter. And also, if you haven't logged into your NCSBN passport account every 45 days, please do so. Otherwise you get deactivated and you can't access the stuff in there, including the live stream. So that's anything. Any comments or questions from the board?
Can the EOs please reactivate my account? I got logged in and 41 days wasn't reactivate mine. On your end.
We know about the 45-day rule.
We can automated reminder
notice?
warning, so we can.
Maybe your account has been deactivated for longer than that.
I remember getting an email.
Try
I'll
logging.
check.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you can't log in, please attempt to do so. You guys, so funny. Is there any public testimony on the matter of the chair's report?
There's none.
Thank you very much, Seth. I appreciate that. We'll move on then to agenda item number 4, which is the executive officer's report. Shoot, EOs.
Yes, so in July, was it July 9th to 10th, EO Adrian and I went to Nashville to attend NCSBN's EO Leadership Summit. It's an annual gathering, and I say it's a gathering because it's rather small. They take 1 or 2 representatives, but really the executive directors and the executive officers only from each nursing regulatory board. So that, which includes Canada, Guam, Samoa, and there's one more I feel like I'm missing.
Mariana Islands, is it NMI?
Oh, US Virgin Islands.
Virgin Islands.
So we got to meet all of our fellow EOs. That was great, especially since we had been corresponding with many of them and speaking with them over the phone, but it was nice to be in the same room with them. So the agenda this year really focused heavily on med spas and IV hydration because there was an IV death in Texas. These questions come to the Nevada Board of Nursing a lot. Understandably why, because of all the IV drip hydration providers, especially in Vegas. So they invited Alex Thiersch, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the American Med Spa Association, to speak. He spoke for half the day, the first day.
Oh, that's a long time.
He gave us the timeline of how these med spas started in the 90s and where we are now. And in short, legislation and regulation has lagged behind the growth of the industry. So that's why some of our regulations and laws do not always apply directly to med spas. And also just how some spas brand themselves, they're not really what you would think of a day spa, but nor do they really operate as a medical clinic. So in some states, this has also led to RNs advertising themselves as or promoting themselves as experts or trainers. So they'll hire non-nursing staff, and sometimes these RNs perform tasks or activities outside of the scope of work without being under the supervision of a physician or an APRN. So, yeah, so that's the short of it. The other agenda item that I want to, from the summit, I want to bring up is the NCLEX fee. Because there was a lot of discussion from the state boards about this. So as you all know, we have all heard that NCSBN wants to raise the NCLEX fee from the current 200 to 350. That's because the fee has been the same since
20 years.
Yeah, for 20 years now. So a couple of executive officers suggested that perhaps NCSBN can introduce this increase incrementally over 2 years. So $75 next year and then $75 in 2028. So then by 2029, they get to 350. However, NCSBN didn't seem all that open to this idea because they were talking about wanting to close some budgetary gaps. And the fact that the NCLEX fee has not changed for 20 years is their biggest argument to this. I raised our particular concern that seems unique to Hawaii, which is that a lot of our nursing students, new graduates, are they're outside of Oahu, so they have to fly in from the other islands to take the test, which means that they have to pay for airfare, transportation, and sometimes lodging. And that's on top of the NCLEX fee. So the CEO of NCSBN took this question because I suggested that perhaps we should push this fee increase until the remote proctoring is ready to roll out. And he took the stage and said, that won't work because the launch of the remote proctoring is postponed indefinitely because they're continuing to work on combating cheating tactics and technology. So if they hold off until that's done, then we don't know when the NCLEX fee will go up, right? So they don't want that to coincide. After the meeting, or after that session, there were several EOs who came up to me from other states, like Virginia, West Virginia, etc., who told me that actually the issue that I put forth with the travel and all those additional expenses that nursing graduates have to take the burden on, they said it's not actually that unique to Hawaii because they have nursing graduates who have to drive long ways to the nearest testing center as well. So travel costs is also part of the concern. And I will close with that. Adrian, is there anything else that you think is worth bringing up?
I think it was useful to meet with people from NRBs that have really similar issues and resources and amount of licensees that we have. So like Samoa, Alaska, that are kind of situated similarly. That was really useful to talk to them because even though their resources are very similar, the way that they're set up is so different than us. So it was interesting to hear the things that they do that maybe work better or worse than what we're doing. And we don't have, direct control over how we're set up
Right.
administratively, but
Right.
it's information. It was appreciated. So
I would agree with that. That's one of the most beneficial things that I have experienced since going to NCSBN meetings is just the perspective. Like our previous executive officers, I think, took a very isolationist view of our board and like we're out here and we're unique and whatever. And like the reality is that there's lots to be learned from other boards, and going to NCSBN and having conversations with them is illuminating. And in some cases, simultaneously inspiring and also frustrating. It's like, oh, you guys can do that. Why can't we do that? And we get kind of mad, and it happens, but whatever. But I do think that that perspective is valuable to us. So thank you for that report. Any questions, comments from the board? Darren, go ahead.
Regarding the increase in fee, and one of my first responses, if it hasn't raised in how many ever years, that's not really our fault. I mean, they had an opportunity to do this over time.
100%, Darren.
I'll call it like I see it. Was there any discussion of options, like if we need to go right from 200 to 350, like can they do it in installments? Can they finance the fee or anything like that? Okay, I see where this is going.
There
All
was one of the EOs suggested to us that we look at creating a scholarship fund to support
Putting that on the stage.
students, fresh grads from the outer islands to fly into Honolulu to take their exam.
Do we know if then, so this is the next question, but related. Have they done any active, do they have an understanding of what states suffer from this distance to testing center issue? And have they tried to collaborate with any of those testing companies to see if they can?
I would say every state has this issue. I'm from Kansas, so I know Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Oklahoma all had issues.
There are some
Do we know if
jurisdictions.
there's those kind of conversations with the folks, some of the companies.
Pearson View.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing, I can't answer this question. The thing about the NCLEX is because so many jurisdictions use the NCLEX as the sole predictor of competence to practice for new graduates. NCSBN is very protective of the security of the exam. And so their contract with Pearson View allows the administration of the exam only in Pearson View owned and operated testing centers. Pearson View is only going to open a testing center in a place where it has reasonable market to be able to successfully operate a private business. And so their distribution of testing centers across the globe is based on really intensive market analysis. And so, yes, Pearson View is aware of the issue associated with distance to testing center, and that the fact that NCSBN's contract with them only permits the testing in their owned and operated testing centers. Right. And also there's a bigger picture business implication for them opening like a testing center in Kauai would be financially detrimental to them. So
I guess taking it a step further, like along the notion of like an innovative idea, like setting up pop-up testing centers where Pearson View rents space at a university with a computer room, and 4 times a year they go in and they host these tests.
So
that way those people have an option every 90 days to stay on their island. And just that may be beyond the scope of this, but I just wonder if NCBSN is having those conversations, because that's really where that should be, since like you said, they've determined you can only take the test with them.
yeah.
So it seems like there's a corner on the market and they're saying, well, we're going to determine where and when you get to do these things, and
Yeah, so very good questions that Darren raises. But and to Carrie's point, yes, for Pearson View centers to actually be established, they need to make sure that there is enough test takers, because you have to remember that Pearson View doesn't just administer NCLEX, they also administer other tests like GRE. Yeah. So a part of the fee increase is due to what Phil mentioned, and that's combating cheating technology.
yeah, they are extremely concerned about that. Like cleverness of technology facilitating cheating is they are wildly concerned about that. So I am glad that Phil finally, I actually gave feedback after the mid-year meeting that it annoyed me that Phil wouldn't just say that remote proctoring was indefinitely postponed, and I provided that feedback. I'm like, can you just say the words, because we're sick of you guys dancing around the reality of that. So I'm glad he finally said the words.
And to the point about their concern about cheating, the same could be said about people's concern about remote testing.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of public
100%.
testimony via social media and whatever else about, is this going to water down the already mixed views of how nurses enter into practice?
Correct.
If they're going to be able to take this in the kitchen.
And that is I will say NCSBN's administration and its board are extremely concerned about making sure that the NCLEX maintains its
When's
integrity.
that next meeting you said I could go to?
Mid-year,
They need voice.
mid-year.
No,
So
thank you for answering questions.
any other questions, comments, public testimony on the executive officer's report?
Public testimony, Chair.
Thank you, Seth. All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item then, which is the reports from our nursing organizations. First up is the Hawaii State Center for Nursing, Laura Reichert.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I do have the notes pulled up. You guys gave me time this month, so I want to thank you for that. How are you all doing?
Well, how are you?
Very, very good. All right. I want to apologize to the EOs for the difficulty. My email was getting blocked. I think it's because I had a website on. So just if you're not getting communication from us, the national organization had some malware in their header. You don't need to know all the details, but it was blocking any website any communication that had their website. So if you're not getting communication from me, please let me know. Give me a call and I will wipe out my email and send it back to you. There was no problems with my actual email. That is fine. Okay, so first we have a theme today. We are talking about the Center for Nursing's contribution to the national dialogue in nursing. And I would be remiss to not recognize Carrie, who recently was the chair for the National Forum of State Nursing Workforce Centers National Conference that just happened last week. It was phenomenal. We had an incredible amount of presenters. We had this really wonderful health economist talk about the nursing workforce from her perspective as a health economist. Carrie gave a presentation about data. We had a lot of really, really robust conversations about workforce retention, workforce data management. And I just want to thank her for the work that she did on that. She represented Hawaii so well. She said a hui ho and aloha, and also was so pleasant as she kept people on time. So I just want to recognize her for that. And then two other contributions that I want to highlight. The American Academy of Nursing Nurse-Led Models of Care report, whose findings include, and this is a quote, as a result of the task force findings, the Academy reaffirms its support in the development, testing, and implementation of nurse-led model of care. The task force concluded that the nurse-led model of care serves as a care improvement model and demonstrates positive clinical and financial outcomes while simultaneously improving quality and equitable care. Further, the task force identified 4 core factors. Those factors are patient-centered, evidence in practice, outcome-driven, and team-based coordination, and also 4 aligned attributes, which are affirming culture, digital health innovation, resource-minded, value and incentive systems that are integral to the success of nurse-led model of care. The article is available at the American Academy of Nursing, and I will provide the direct link for the minutes. I was a member of this task force, and it was a pleasure to be both in the investigation process as well as the writing process for that report. And then in May 2026, in the Journal of Nursing Regulation, in the May 2026 issue of the Journal of Nursing Regulation, the article Reexamining the Under 35 Nursing Workforce in 2024, Implications for Workforce Diversity and Sustainability, concludes, and this is another quote, while the decrease in burnout and intent to leave among young nurses is promising, the rates of intent to leave are still concerningly high. Threats to the resilience of the youngest cohort of nurses have compounding effects on the health and workforce, as young nurses are expected to have the most years of service ahead of them. Furthermore, these data show that the concerns affecting young nurses are shared with older nurses, suggesting that direct interventions on issues such as inadequate salary, high workloads, and understaffing are necessary to promote long-term workforce health. The article is available in the Journal of Nursing Regulation, which you all have access to, but I will also provide the link for the general public. And Carrie was an author on that, so I want to recommend or commend her on her work with that national research initiative. And though these projects were independent of each other, in tandem, there may be opportunities for promoting long-term workforce health through nurse-led models of care, whose core factors and aligned attributes may address or solve for the issues named in the Under 35 article. So I think I just wanted to highlight these national efforts that Carrie and I both participated in, and particularly as we reflect back to the needs of our own state, how we may look to these insights and then apply interventions locally to support our local workforce.
Thank you, Laura. Any comments from the board? Testimony from the public?
No testimony, Chair.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Director Reichart. We appreciate that. Appreciate the kudos also. All right, up next, we have a report from Hawaii American Nurses Association. Do we have Denise with us? Do not have Denise with us. Okay. I guess we do not have a report from Hawaii ANA. All right, we move on then to next agenda item number 6, which is new business. We have a scope of practice inquiry, which I feel is important for us to consult with our attorneys. And so I would like us to go into executive session for that. So I'm going to take the agenda slightly out of order and pass up for a moment on 6B and move on to 6C, which is the ratification of the Education Committee reports from May 7th and June 4th. You can see here that the Education Committee made multiple approvals, including new administrators, faculty applications for University of Hawaii Manoa and Chaminade University, as well as several licensing applications. Sorry, there was some yelling outside. We were not sure if that was a problem or not. As well as the approval of a new credentials evaluator called Educational Credential Evaluators. So these are all approvals that the committee has made on y'all's behalf. Any questions from the board? Testimony from the public?
No testimony, Chair.
I would like to move to ratify the decisions made by the Education Committee at its meetings on May 7th and June 4th. Is there a second?
Carrie Shields Hansen seconds that.
Thank you, Chair of the Education Committee, for that second. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries. All right. We are then going to go back on the agenda to 6B, and pursuant to Chapter 92, I would like to make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss confidential information, to consult with the board's attorneys on the matter of both item 6B, which is the scope of practice inquiry, as well as applications for licensure. Is there a second?
This is Bradley. I'll second.
Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries. We're in exec. We're live.
And I'm open to that.
And we are live, according to Courtney. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to resume our agenda on item number 6B, which was the scope of practice inquiry, excuse me, regarding telehealth prescribing of Schedule II controlled substances by Hawaii licensed advanced practice registered nurse. After consulting with our attorneys, the board's response to this inquiry is that because the inquiry requires an interpretation of Chapter 329, HRS 329, the board declines to opine in response to this inquiry, as this board does not administer Chapter 329. So that is our response to that inquiry. Does anybody wish to provide testimony on that agenda item? I forgot. Sorry.
No testimony.
No testimony. Thank you, Seth. All right, moving on then to agenda item number, I'm lost on my agenda. Oh, wait, hold on, I'm lost. That was 6B, taken care of. 6C was already done because we took it out of order. Now we're down to nursing licenses, application for licensure. So I would like to make a motion to approve the ratification lists for LPNs, RNs, APRNs with prescriptive authority and temporary permits as appended to the agenda for this meeting. Is there a second?
This is Bradley, I'll second.
Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Board, I have a question. Would one of you like to make a motion on the matter of the licensed application for licensed practical nurse for Rebecca Kilmani?
Darren Dunbar, I move to defer approval of LPN by endorsement pending professional evaluation for substance use disorder.
Is there a second?
This is Rebecca, I second.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the second. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Magical. And as we did at the beginning of the agenda, we are deferring the Chapter 91 issue. So we are now down to elections. Chair and vice chair. I'm your chair. We don't have a vice chair currently.
You want to remain as chair?
I don't have an opinion. I've been the chair for a really long time.
Yeah.
I've been the chair for 6 years. That is almost the entirety of my tenure on the board. I like to think that I'm doing a reasonably good enough job that you guys keep doing it, but that's not to say that I need to keep doing it. And I think leadership succession is important. I also have a particular way about me that influences how the board functions. And if you guys like that a lot. So if you guys are open to a change, I'm happy to continue doing it if you are inclined to have me. But if somebody else would like to take the job, I will cede the nomination. Would anybody like to nominate themselves or a colleague for chair? Oh, Darren has a thought.
Question.
Yes.
Look, Karen's first.
Wait, no, Darren has a third.
Oh.
Darren.
You just said you have 363 days. That's not necessarily in the president role. You're just saying that's the last year of your appointment on the board.
I will term off the board on June 30th of next year.
Is it an appropriate question to ask you if you would consider remaining as a community member for your encyclopedic knowledge and experience?
I mean, I can attend the board meetings as a guest.
I think she has to be off.
I have to be gone. Yes,
Yeah.
I have to be gone for at least a year. And I will not be reapplying to join back on the board because term limits are important, my friends. Get off the board. It's 8 years. Go away.
You can go to another board.
I will not also be doing that. So if somebody would like to nominate themselves for the position of chair, I will cede the nomination. Would anybody like to nominate themselves or a colleague for the position of chair of the Board of Nursing? None?
Nope.
None?
You're it.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to elect me as the chair of the Board of Nursing for a term to end June 30th, 2027?
I will.
I'll move. Well, I'll second.
I appreciate y'all's collective enthusiasm. There's a motion and a second to elect me as the chair. Does anybody want to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Hi, I'm your chair. Vice chair, though, that's an open one. We don't have anybody doing that. So I'm just going to say this as the chair, I'm very much concerned about succession planning. I just got done in executive session. One of the things that I said was a lot of the information about board's previous decisions is locked in my head. And that freaks me out. I would like to help whoever is the next chair. And so in my mind, this fantastical version of reality, whoever gets elected now as the vice chair would ascend to chair when I'm done and gone. So if you're going to nominate yourself for somebody else's chair, that's what I would, or vice chair, I would hope that there's sort of a long-term plan to put yourself forward as the chair in when I'm gone. There's a hand. Rebecca Moore has raised her hand.
I would like to vote for Bradley to be
There's a
our vice
nomination
chair.
for Bradley Quo to be vice chair. Anybody else care to throw their hat in the ring? Bradley, do you accept the nomination?
I would.
Bradley accepts that nomination.
Second.
That is a,
Was it a motion?
that was a motion. Was that a motion, Rebecca? Is a move to not nominate, elect Bradley as the vice chair of the board? Darren seconds. Any discussion from the board or the public? All right, that's a motion and a second. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Congratulations, vice chair. Yay, go team.
My memory is not as.
Somebody on there, are we waiting to hear from them about something?
They never raise their hand in response to any agenda
I'm
items.
just here watching.
Chilling, public, it is a public
Okay.
meeting. You can lurk if you want to. And that brings us to the end of our agenda in probably record time. Woohoo! Our next
Yeah.
meeting, oh, Darren has a question.
Adrian, I don't know if you saw my response to that LPN application I reviewed last night. So I just have a general question so that I understand these things. I reviewed an LPN application that I'm in favor of approving her to take the NCLEX.
Yes.
But one of the questions I had in my mind is, at what juncture do we require a background check when they apply to take NCLEX? Or do they pass the NCLEX when they apply for licensure, they need the background
I
check?
sent you an email. So there's the two options. They can apply by exam or by endorsement, but we approve them for exam. So before we approve them for exam.
Did we
there's
miss an
a
agenda
background
item?
check. No, we can, if you want.
The basis for my question was, she was very detailed
It
about.
was very fast.
Acting, and it's like.
But we didn't.
Some of them not telling the whole story, but I thought, there's gotta be a background check at some point, so, okay, I'm good.
Everybody is backgrounded upon application or at some point.
See this after we.
Got it. Okay, perfect. I would like to remind the board that right now we have 3 vacancies, and so 6 is all we have. If we wanted to, so we need 5 for quorum. So if you're going to be absent at a board meeting, please let the executive officers know as soon as possible. So if we have to cancel the meeting for quorum, we know that as far out as possible. Our next meeting is going to be on August 6th, 2026, same place, same time. If any board member knows that you cannot attend, please let the EOs know. And with that, we are at the end of the agenda. We are adjourned. Mahalo, everybody. Goodbye.
You heard about the first Operation Nightingale trial ends in a